Hello everyone, welcome to the Jenkins Infrastructure SIG weekly meeting. Today we are the 12th November 2025. Around the virtual table we have myself, Thomas Duportal, Bruno Verharten, Jeredi, Mark Waits, and Hervé Lemer. Welcome everyone. Let's get started with the announcement. On the Jenkins weekly releases. Last week, we were able to release Jenkins 2.535. No issues here. No problem, started on time. And this week, yesterday, because today we are Wednesday, exceptionally, we were able to release 2.536 with no major infrastructure issue and no infrastructure issue at all. However, there were some Maven internal issues, an update on the parent POM and Jenkins core, updated transitively the Maven plugin version, the Maven release plugin version that is used when you perform a release of Jenkins. One of the issues of that new version is that it wasn't taking in account some spotless, the formatting tool issues. So of course it failed due to a formatting issue. Quite frustrating, isn't it? However, thanks Mark and thanks Jay for fixing that issue. Looks like there were multiple elements, but it went successfully in the end. Yes, Mark.
Yeah, and I think actually it was our mistake in terms of a Jenkins code problem, not really the Maven release plugin. It's what it was doing, the fix that we ultimately did, assuming that it's successful next week. It passed all my tests, and it's been merged to Jenkins master branch. But the fix we did is a fix in Jenkins that is, I think, more correct than the original code was.
Cool. But by original code, you mean POM XML stuff, not real Jenkins code, right?
Exactly. Yes,
Okay.
it was just a change in POM XML, and the change was to copy some code from one phase to an earlier phase where it probably should have been all along anyway.
Okay, good. Thanks for the explanation then. So yep, yesterday it was released without any issue, and as Mark said, we should be good next week. Cool. Anything else on the weekly releases? Okay, so additional point. Thanks, Jay, for taking care of updating the controller images. So that used to be Stefan work. So our controller are up to date since earlier today. That will be the new rate. Given when we finish the releases, it's too late for Jay on his time zone. So Jay work on Wednesday. So Wednesday, normal time in India, morning in Europe, and early morning or night still on the US. We will update our weekly releases. On the announcement now. Uh, Today, we are in the process of releasing a new LTS.2 version for 2528. Hervé, you are the release lead, and looks like the release started, and with no problem, at least on the infra part for now. Is that correct?
Yes.
Cool. Just to be clear, because Hervé, you asked this question a few minutes before we started the meeting, that LTS release doesn't have the Maven plugin changes that made yesterday release fail, and it doesn't have the fix by Mark, of course, but no need to backport it because it's still using the parent POM, the older parent POM before the update. So we shouldn't have that kind of issue. At first sight, I don't know all the details of the setup here.
Yeah, if we do have that issue, it would have happened in the first 10 or 15 minutes of the build. It was a very early failure.
Okay, so I guess we're good. Thanks. Okay, so Jay, no worries for the updates of the images since it's an LTS. I will take care of it. I will explain why later. In the future, I guess we can hand over and you can take care of this one of the LTS SIS updates, which happen on Wednesdays. So that will be a Thursday for you.
And should we ask to move the releases earlier in the day on Tuesday weekly instead of putting them at the end of Jay's working day? What if we put them 6 or 8 hours earlier so that he could do them same day and still be inside his working day? Would that be a problem for anyone else? I mean, in the past, we worried about fitting them into the U.S. day, but they already start very, very early in the U.S. day, and it seems to me that starting them 4 or 6 hours earlier might allow Jay to do the update on the same day still.
That's a good idea for the weekly releases at least. For the LTS, that's a different topic, of course,
Right,
but yeah,
right.
worth asking Tim since he's driving the releases. But yep, no, I don't see any objection on the infra side. What do you think, Jay?
Yeah, that plan sounds good. We
Good.
can release the weekly immediately. We could
Mm,
release the weekly releases on Tuesday.
mhm. Hervé, no objection on your side? Okay, I guess Bruno, same. Do you see any issues with
No,
that?
no, I'm fine with that. Thank you.
Cool.
And I could see Tim having a possible objection saying, hey, he likes to merge things early his morning, Tuesday morning. But even then, that would still give us several hours earlier than they are today.
Weeklies, 6 hour here to
And
fit
Jay,
with.
would 6 hours earlier be enough to actually fit it into your working day, or is that still not early enough?
I think that sounds good.
That will mean finishing the release if everything goes right around 9 to 10 UTC
Yeah.
morning.
So that
Right.
means
You are 3 hours and a half from UTC, right?
yeah. So at 9 to 10
Yeah,
UTC.
it's just the afternoon for me, so I can take care of that.
Cool.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So at least that looks, based on my roughly 12-hour offset from Jay, that looks like 6 hours earlier would be good. If Tim objects and says, ooh, no, it can only be 2 hours earlier, I'm not sure it's worth it.
Yep. To Tim. If it is only 2 hours earlier, then not worth it.
Right.
We don't care about writing this. Okay. Thanks. That's a good idea. That will fit the schedule. Okay. That's all for me on the releases for this week. So we will wait for LTS to be deployed as soon as possible. Weeklies are okay. Do you have anything else on the Jenkins core releases, either weekly or LTSs? Okay, so next announcement. Reminder, tomorrow, Thursday, 13 November, we will have a Jira maintenance. It will start at 4 p.m. UTC and will last for 6 hours. I most probably won't be there for the end. I will need a bit of help, but I think that was the idea by Mark. We hand over. Not a lot of things to do in the infra except validating that Jira works and we're good. And I will finish the cleanup for the test instant Friday. It has been announced on every channel I could think of except the blog posts. Wasn't worth a blog post, but maybe we can do it in last minute just for the sound.
No, I think the channels where you announced it are more than good enough.
Cool. Um, yep, that I don't have anything else on the Jira part. Everything is handled on the Linux Foundation part. Do you have any question or points on that one?
Just that people should be aware that there's an active initiative from Tim Jacomb long term to move us off Jira to GitHub issues for Jenkins core. And Hervé has done some explorations of what might it mean to do even more components in GitHub issues. So
Mhm.
that doesn't avoid this. It doesn't change this at all. Just everyone should be aware that Jira is going to continue for us for a very long time, but we may reduce our dependency on it
Mhm.
steadily.
Which trigger one big infra question for me that I haven't seen anything. I need to send the email, but I want to raise it here first. What is the disaster recovery plan if GitHub decides to kick us out or to go down, or if the data is deleted on GitHub? How do we survive such an event?
Yeah, and I suspect the answer to that will be it's the same disaster recovery plan as if they deleted our repositories. And right now that means relying on that we don't have a disaster recovery plan. So it's a good question.
Good.
2 points. Tim already made the import on his own organization several times, I think. It did not have any issue. Second point, I opened a few years ago an helpdesk issue to back up our repository and issue. Might worth revisiting it when I have some time.
Yep. These are somehow, even if it looks like the same topics and we could reuse techniques, these are two distinct topics. Losing the helpdesk issue on the infrastructure is one thing, but we can recover from that. It's not critical, it's useful. While the issues from the management of the Jenkins project on Jira are critical. From Tim, but that's a good point, Hervé. And the whole backup and disaster recovery plan is a topic that we have let die for too long because we were missing person having the active time to work on it seriously. That's something to revisit for 2026, maybe. I think it's worth bringing that topic on the FOSDEM for a 2026 top level project. But yeah, from Tim for Jira to GitHub migration, disaster recovery plans. Because right now we rely on the disaster recovery plans from the Linux Foundation. And I trust their recovery plan way more than GitHub's recovery plan, to be quite honest.
Okay. But it's more, it's not only related to this migration, then it's also long-term disaster plans that we don't have for any of the organization.
So for the code itself, yes. For the issues, no. Right now we have a disaster recovery plan, which is, I'm not sure if it's on EEP or GEP, but that was part of the handover to the Linux Foundation, who they guarantee that they can provide backups on many locations, etc. They provide some level of recovery plan. So in case of if their server goes down, let's say tomorrow during the migration, they have backups on many locations.
Thinking out loud, sorry, taking a few minutes. When doing this migration, we're effectively getting backup of all Jira issues, and we have the content of the GitHub issues created by the migration scripts. I think we should be able to extend it to also backup regularly GitHub issues.
Maybe, but that's something that has to be described and planned. Yep,
yeah,
absolutely.
sure. It's just thinking out loud.
But there are no solution or golden bullets that will do the backup automatically for us magically. The thing is we have to treat it by scope. That's what a disaster recovery plan looks like. You need an exhaustive list of everything and you need scopes and bricks and build them step by step. Tooling is a detail on that area, especially the recovery exercises are important to plan.
Yep.
Tyler used to have a full backup of everything on his personal NAS for years. I think he stopped doing it 2021 or 2022. And he was playing a full recovery. He had a Jenkins that each goal was to put the code from his machine offline and try to build things offline once a week. Okay, so that means disaster, that means hot topic for 2020 in the infra. Yep. Anything else on Jira, the disaster recovery plan?
No.
Okay. Sorry?
No.
Okay. Reminder, we have the infra roadmap. The priority right now is still PKG origin Jenkins IO migration. Reminder that the Jenkins election started. So if you haven't voted, please vote. If you registered for voting but you never received the link for voting, please contact Alex or on all the usual channels. Please vote before it ends. One last thing. So I wrote it in announcements. We will get more details in the upcoming weeks, but we have been granted 100K of credits in Microsoft Azure. More details later, because I still cannot officially explain all of these details, but the credits are on the account. We can see them using the shared account on Azure, not our personal admin account. At first sight, we will have to do the same technique as what we used to have, a separated subscription. However, everyone will be able to see the credits in the normal Azure UI. So no lock-in to someone like Damien or an individual to see the consumption by detail. We need to confirm that. But one of the that means we can start using immediate action to recreate some of the resources and move some workloads back to these credits so we can use them. I haven't checked the official expiry date that is written inside Azure UI. As far as we understand, it will be end of 2026, but need to be confirmed. I'm voluntarily not writing a note here just to be sure. It's I had the green light to tell it during the weekly meeting, even during the recording, but details will come, no worries. But that's we are really grateful for that donation, and that's really cool. Any question, or can I move to the upcoming calendar? Cool. Upcoming calendar, we have a release next week. So on the 18th November 2.573, 537, sorry. Slow start of week for me. I will give you more details. I might want to change the publication process to improve it as part of the migration of PKG to Azure. That might have impacts. And there is a second topic I will want to raise when we will cover that issue, but that one might need presence of infra team members. Just a note. Outside this, we have the next LTS. I believe the release candidate is on 26 November, and the release is planned on the 10 December. I don't know who the release lead here is. It hasn't been decided yet, right? Cool. Not decided yet. That will be the .3 before the usual Christmas holidays. We don't have any security advisories publicly announced. And we have 5 credentials that will expire on the infrastructure part in the upcoming 3 weeks. We already mentioned this and we have issues for each that will be treated this week because they will end on 24, 25, and 27 November. We'll treat them as part of this week milestone. Finally, next major event will be the FOSDEM, where you will be able to meet some team members in Brussels with the contributor summit. I see no element. Mark, I let you the mic for the coordinated release. Can you explain us?
Yeah, so we've got a breaking change in the GitLab API plugin. The breaking change, we could implement a compatibility layer the ways that have been done for larger scale projects. I've negotiated with the 3 other plugin maintainers to persuade them, no, let's not do a compatibility layer. It's a lot of extra work. Let's just admit we're going to coordinate the release within a very narrow window of an API plugin and its 3 dependent plugins. So Joseph Peterson, Chris Stern, Alex Adrien Le Charpentier and I will be on Friday morning UTC, or Friday midday UTC time, be driving a release of first the API plugin and then shortly thereafter 3 plugins that depend on it. You may see requests or complaints from people during the window of time when the API plugin is available and the dependencies are not, that they're broken. And that will be accurate. We're accepting that as a consequence so that we don't have to go through all of the major work of creating a compatibility layer only to allow people to survive that brief period. So is that enough, Damien, in terms of just, I hope none of you are impacted by it. We don't have the GitLab branch source on ci.jenkins.io. We don't need it, but you may see questions or complaints about it.
Yep, that's a true analysis. Thinking aloud, would it help to disable the update center generation during the short time windows so it will only run once and release and publish everything at the end?
If this were more than just 3 plugins, it might be worth it. In this case, given how few plugins it is, I don't think it's worth the risk to our processes to turn it off temporarily. I'd rather just leave it and admit that if someone complains about that narrow window of time, we'll tell them, yeah, run another update, you'll get it fixed. It doesn't stop their controller. It doesn't kill things. All it does, the failure mode, is they get a stack trace when trying to scan a GitLab organization. 1 hour later or less, they'll be able to do another update, and they won't get that stack trace anymore.
Okay, makes sense. Thanks. No more question for me. It's clear. Any question? Okay, so then let's jump to the cloud budget part. I can remove the we got money already announced. We'll draft the plan proposal for next week, that area. But we might start as soon as we can rebuilding. I will take care of rebuilding the base network on the new subscription and prepare the subscription run so we can spread the workloads then across everyone here. Azure. So on the billing part, we consume almost 2.3K. We had an increase in the past day of consumption. The cause is cert.ci Jenkins.io. So I guess our Jenkins-sec friends are busy, and I've been busy for the past day making builds. So we should still stay at 6.OK for the end of the month, because looks like the forecast didn't like the sudden peak in the past 3 days. However, the real forecast, a linear forecast, is at 5.9. So let's say 6.0, that's our threshold, we're okay. We have 14.8K on the 1st November, still available based on our predictions with the CDF. Which means if we keep staying at 6.8K, we will be able to save 2.8K at the end of the year for the whole year. So we are in the right direction. We may even consume less if we are able to start using these new credits. So congratulations, everyone. DigitalOcean, nothing special. I've updated the amount of credits, and we consume a bit more, and we will have an increased forecast because, of course, we have now more machines running on DigitalOcean. I forgot to update the AWS Cloud Build like every week. That should be stable because right now we only have PKG origin there. So we might see a slight decrease compared to October. And nothing specific here except we need to work on PKG, which is our top operational priority. On the sponsored accounts, we had a decrease compared to October because we were able to fix the spot retries and all the issues. The forecast is currently at 6.OK, which is the target with the current state of CI Jenkins.io. Oh, I've lost you. I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay,
I can
should
hear
be
you just fine.
sorry. I was offline everywhere, sorry. So CI Jenkins IO is still working as expected. We don't have any more visible problem on the agent allocation. So the consumption sounds like back to normal with all the fixes we made on short term. Part of the credits we have been gained on Azure could be thought to be consumed for CI Jenkins IO. So planning to move it back to Azure. Yes, it's like a pendulum game. We CI Jenkins IO move location once or even twice a year. But that could be something to think about to consume these credits. Because the credits on Amazon are available until 2027. So my proposal is that given the current rate, we have 2 months in front of us to consume the first batch of credits. And we finish at least 1 full month normal as usual, and we plan. And then we can have the second month that will be spent while we migrate to Azure, leaving us with 60K on AWS until May 2027. Then we can start consuming Azure credits for 2026, allowing us to go back to AWS if we need. That's an idea without further details, just think about it. If we stay in AWS with the current rate, we have 11 months remaining at this current rate on AWS, which sends us, as usual, to October 2026 as it has always been the case. Before we jump to JFrog, do you have any question about on the cloud credits, the proposals I made, or any points to add or to clarify?
None from me. So the CDF expresses again their thanks at our diligently maintain ourselves under budget, and they're willing to support us on the plan. Thanks.
Cool. Thanks, Mark. That makes me think. So CDF looks like we have asked for a shorter credit for 2026 since we have new credits. So they should give us way less money next year, and they will put parts somewhere safe so we can use it in 2027 eventually. And we have to communicate to DigitalOcean and ask them for renew the sponsorship and at least just move the expiry date of the 11K credit we have. Eventually having more, but I don't think it's worth asking for more credits since we just consume them slowly, even if we increase the consumption. We have almost 1 year for them, so my proposal is that, yep, we just ask them to extend the expiry date to 2027. JFrog storage is steady. October was really good. We really had a huge decrease in the bandwidth. However, November will augment. We will be between September and October. First superficial check, the increase was on Node.js cache and releases repository. I don't know more about if it's legit usage, misconfiguration, or abuse.
Yeah, so, and I apologize that I hadn't posted the request earlier. The AWS abuse report that I've been working with for for a set of users has asked, please give us timestamped logs to show evidence of the abuse. Damien, is it okay if I send a request to you for which specific IP addresses I need timestamped logs for, or do I need to go to Darren? Who do I need to ask in order to get timestamped logs proving that they're downloading the same artifact multiple times?
I don't remember the exact type of logs that are available, so worth asking Darren and I at the same time and
Okay, I will
see
do that.
which one of two will be the first to have time to look on it.
Thanks. Yeah, we've done it at least once before, and I complained to them that, hey, why do I have to do this again when we proved to you already once before? But I'll go digging into the what we did before so that we can give them the same kind of thing again. Thanks. And yeah, I wish they would have just told their customer, look, we have evidence you haven't stopped when you said you'd stopped. But they apparently weren't willing.
Thanks, Mark. Okay, any other question on the clouds?
Oh, I take it back. I've got
Cloud budget?
one more on the artifactory
Mhm.
thing. we've got the backend extension indexer, which every week consumes 50 gigabytes of bandwidth and really is aching for and fails. And we've got an eventual that we need to fix it. It's been broken for a while. It's still low priority. I'm wondering if we should just suspend the thing because we know it's going to fail. It's going to fail every week with the same failure, and we're not going to spend energy trying to fix it. We could reduce the bandwidth a little by stopping it.
Yep, I guess on short term, disabling it is a good idea. As I wrote, there are two issues. The first one is I don't know why, but it's not using the TMP directory specified to the GVM. So
Right.
we might have missed a call or there is an issue in the code and written in row. And I might have a short-term fix, but it's not, let's say, a quick one in the sense that we can use Cloud Init when initializing the agent to force mounting the /tmp mount point into the secondary disk. That will solve the problem because this disk is 300 gigabytes.
Mm.
And that's where we have TMP for all the other builds. So that one could help not having the failure and the spam on PagerDuty every week. As for the consumption of Data Weekly, could be worth thinking about caching this one like we did for the BOM. Just a reminder, the BOM cache is not updated since at least 1 month.
Mm.
So we have the cache from 1 month ago, and every changes since then need to be downloaded. So that could also increase the bandwidth. Uh, Initially, Stefan was going to work on renewing, fixing that problem. But yes, of course, with the past 4 months, it has been slow. So yeah, we need to resume that part.
Thanks.
Let me write this down because that's also a cause of consumption on JFrog. We
Well, and I
haven't
had
been.
forgotten about that the bomb cache is outdated and not being updated. So that's a good reminder that and that may even be more valuable for bandwidth reduction than any work on backend extension indexer because we do bomb builds much more frequently.
Yep. My proposal is that we disable the, I think it's the weekly build that is on, I guess, on the main branch, and we keep the pull request being open though, so we could try a pull request with fixes, if that's okay for you, Mark.
I like that. That's a very good idea.
Okay. What else do we have? I think that's all. Any other question on the JFrog and bandwidth part? Nope. Okay. Let's go on the milestone tasks. On the task we were able to finish. So the Maven one virtual machine agent timeout issues. We fixed that problem in pair with Hervé. Thanks, Mark, for raising it. That was a mistake from me. I did a bad copy and paste just for that specific agent and not for all the other. That's really a dumb mistake, and that does fix. So sorry for the inconvenience. The good news is that it shows we don't have a lot of use cases where we still use Maven with JDK 11 in a virtual machine agent. And I guess that should be updated to JDK 21 as soon as possible. But I don't know what was I don't remember exactly what was the case or what were the cases. I took care of spam content since Mark you were off. Ulrich was nominatively targeted because only his issues were targeted.
Yeah, and I've found
That's weird.
there have been three or four instances of spam this week since returning from vacation that I've cleared. It's
Okay.
it's an ongoing thing, and uh, one of the benefits of switching to GitHub issues will be a reduction in spam.
Good. Yep. That's a good point. Sometimes migration to th would help using keycloak or account app as well. I closed the issue related to the previous security plugin advisory that where we had issues. I've provided elements and actionables to the GenSec team. They started to play and started review. They didn't have time to finish it. But we discussed that it wasn't emergent. So they have a solution, if I'm absolutely off, that's a job on trusted CI with some code that explain where do we have to put the files and what command need to be run. And in any case, I will try to be available if we have an upcoming security advisory. If we don't, then everything is on the issue. That just means someone will have to read the issue and take the time in case of a problem. Uh, Ideally, if I can finish the work on the packaging, moving the packaging, the build of packages on release CI, that one will be just outdated. Everything will be done automatically by the package build and the update center, and everything will be fine. On CI Jenkins IO, we closed the issue related to both kind of agent allocation problems. EC2 plugin is up to date, and that fixed the SSH key problems that looked like a race condition. We don't use Spot anymore, and we are using instance types that are available in that region and in that availability zone. And we also set Carpenter for the container agents to fall back on on-demand instances. We were using only Spot instances before. Right now, as you saw on the cloud budget, we haven't seen a visible increase in costs. We are same order of magnitudes. The reason is because Spot is not interesting nowadays on AWS when you need a local NVMe storage. If you use EBS and don't have the constraint of a local specific NVMe storage on the hypervisor, then looking at Spot can be really interesting. I saw 12 times cheaper on some instances with the same amount of CPU of what we have. However, the EBS cost that we would need in such a case would make the 12 to be only 2 times. Yep. So let's not bother people with the Spot part. That's all on the closed issue. Did I miss something? Do you want details or do you have question on the closed issues? Okay, so on the issue in progress, I try to put them in priority order. First, PKG migration. There are two parallel processes worked in progress. I'm resuming the work now that we have the LTS today. After a wise advice and question from Hervé last week, I restrained myself on working on this because, yep, I wasn't there yesterday for the weekly. And it's going back and blocking an LTS release due to packaging change is not the wisest. However, we still have to work on this because since we can only test during a weekly release, the last mile, since it's about publication on production environments, there is a limit of what we can test ahead of time. That's why we will need to rush that one. I plan to deliver these publication changes, phase 2 of 3, for the next weekly. So we will have another weekly for the phase 3 or fixes if need be. Also, part of these changes will be transforming the current PKG machine to a dumb Apache server. That's the goal. Once it's a dumb Apache server and nothing happens except serving files, copying files and serving them with Apache, we will be able to move this everywhere we need where we have a web server. So that means I can already start ahead of time building the new PKG origin server on Azure that will serve the staging data. Along with that, the technique I'm working on for the publication requires, and I say requires with care, a staging part. Packaging will be generated on what we call staging directories, and at the end of the packaging build, what used to be the sync mirror will be promoted to production instead. That will rsync the content of the staging directories to their respective target in production. Everything will be done locally in Azure. That's the long-term target. As part of that, that allows us to have private web servers that will serve the content of the staging areas. It doesn't cost us a lot. It's just 3 to 4 lines of configuration on Kubernetes, and we have this that will help me test the steps ahead. And we will keep this staging private web service for the Jenkins security team because they might have a lot of ideas in the future. that will allow eventually generating the packages repository ahead of a security release, a few days before the release. So that's not the goal of that task, but that task enables that kind of scenario.
So it's been a long time that we've had in fact, when Olivier Vernon originally reworked the release process, staging packaging was already on his mind then. So that's great news.
Yep. And the key point here was how do we manage to generate all packages inside release CI? That was the main challenge for Olivier, and we had way more primitives on Azure now that allows us to do that. It was not possible or at a great expense back in time. So these are the two elements related to PKG that I will try to focus on. Are there any questions on this one? Which lead me to that thing I will need, because while we have Bruno here and Mark, we had that whole issue by a contributor that discussed with Basil, and they agreed on a solution to merge the OpenSUSE and Red Hat packages for Jenkins, because both are using the RPM formats, at least in the way we distribute them. So they provided even solutions for what to do once this one is merged if it works as expected, especially on the infra part, because right now, if you have an OpenSUSE distribution, you go on pkg origin /OpenSUSE or /OpenSUSE stable. But if we do everything on a new RPM part, that means you need redirection from OpenSUSE to be sure that existing distribution package manager will use the new RPMs. So their solution is nice because packages manager support redirection on HTTP. Otherwise, it wouldn't work already today when we download the file. And that will avoid less stages in the parallel stages for the packages, less code to maintain, less data to store and serve. So that could really greatly improve the situation here. I'm still not sure if we should do this before or after my changes, because both impact the same area. I think the first step will be discussing that on the next SIG meeting. So that's why I suggest we delay this one for after the PKG migration, or at least my step 2. And I will help the contributor to rebase once I will have done my breaking changes in that repo. But I will want to have the SIG that you lead, Bruno, to take over this one, just to have an advice and see if we didn't miss anything. But the contributor is dynamic, answered, and updated a 1.5-year old pull request. They worked a lot with Basil, so that could be interesting to have this delivered. There are other changes, though, to carefully review. I saw mentions about signing RPMs. So I'm not sure if OpenSUSE wasn't signing or the other. There is the infamous RPM no check that's set to false, so that enable effectively controlling the signature of RPMs on one of these two repositories at least.
SUSE.
SUSE? Okay.
Yeah. It's
So
my recollection is the Red Hat one is signed, but the SUSE one is definitely not.
So that will improve the situation for our SUSE user. So I'm mentioning it, and unless someone objects, I propose to delay after my changes, but still worth at checking the review because you have extensive details on the pull request. So that looks a good one to integrate. Now on the support part, we had outage with the release boat on incrementals Jenkins IO. That allowed us to track that to a bug that appeared with the new LTS 2528.1. There is a user migration process, and that user migration process keeps failing when we restart our instances, at least on CI Jenkins IO. We have seen other cases of user reporting the same kind of problem. And what you see is that when you log in as the user, Jenkins seems to confuse between the new user, which is tentative of migration never finished because it failed, and the old user. So one of the direct consequences for us is that API tokens generated for the whole user are not completely migrated. So they disappear, they are not used. even though the content and the secret are still there, encrypted and stored. So we don't lose data on the Jenkins home, but Jenkins is confused about which user to represent in memory. For the release boat, we did, let's say, a radical solution. We deleted all the users from file system with the name release something because there is only a release boat on the LDAP. So no reason to have any user with another name. And we recreated it from scratch with the modern format. So no need for migration. That means two things. First, we need to provide reproduction issues to just click in the Jira issue so we can find, reproduce, and get a fix. Second, if you have a user on CI Jenkins.io with an API token, most probably you keep losing the API token on each restart of the controller. Third, we will have an LTS upgrade today, so that means you might lose again your API token later today. One of the solutions I proposed that Tim and Daniel validated, but we need to communicate carefully. I have a radical solution. We clean up the users directory of CI Jenkins.io after a backup, we never know, and we restart. We have user directories that are predates me working on the infrastructure. So maybe, let's say winter cleanup or spring cleanup, autumn cleanup would help. Of course, it means everyone will lose their preferences for team and your API tokens and eventually public SSH keys. Yes, I agree with every message. Losing token on restart is like token rotation at its finest, right? Yep. Proposal is let's communicate to the user and plan this one while we work in parallel on reproducing the bugs and see if we can have, let's say, a fix. Because the fix might not be easy. I don't know. I don't have much time. So, yep. Since we have a lot of users here, a lot of tentatives, if we communicate, we let people know, even if it breaks the feature for them, at least they know they just have to recreate it. If you have any objection or you think about something that could be really annoying by doing that, please comment on the issue or raise your voice, just in case we forget something important. Any question on this one? Okay. I will gather a bit more feedbacks and I propose we start planning this operation for the next milestone, not this one, which means we should plan it for end of November. Jay Hervé, what's the status on the Kubernetes 1.33 part?
So we've upgraded the release line on update 3, and yeah, since due to the nature of conflicting tasks, we haven't gotten to work on it fully yet. So hopefully soon, as soon as Airway and I can sync up, we could finish it up later this week.
Okay, thanks. Any question on this one? Nope. Okay, Hervé, mic is yours on Windows 2025. Can you just give us a report update?
So I figured out how to install Docker Desktop on my testing Azure virtual machine, Windows Server Core 2025. Now I'm trying to start it. The last try I've got this morning stayed showing starting desktop without anything.
Okay. So yep. Uh, was it? Did you had answer from the Docker official person on the on their community about is it supported? Is it expected to work?
I haven't I haven't asked.
Okay. One of the challenges here will be nested virtualization. The thing is, you might want to be sure you use the same instance size in Azure as what we have on CI, Jenkins, IO, and Amazon, respectively for CI and Infra. The reason is because depending on the kind of hypervisor, you might be able or not to have nested virtualization. I talked about it after our last conversation, and that just showed that might be the case. Since it's a virtual machine, running an hypervisor inside a virtual machine to run virtual machines in a nested way, that can be tricky. In certain cases, when it works very well. But when it doesn't work, yep, you're stuck. Usually, on your physical Windows 11 machine, you have to go on the BIOS during startup and enable some features of the CPU in order to allow virtualization to work as expected. And you might even have to fine-tune it for the IO's part, but that works on a physical machine. Here, we're not dealing with physical machines. So maybe you are stuck in that area. That could also explain why in some of your tests before, Windows Docker was failing to run 2019 container on 2022.
No,
Maybe
I did, 2022 are no problem.
the
I don't have any problem with
2019 container on
19.
other.
19 is not working.
Yes, but it's not working, and maybe that could be the explanation is that the virtual machine you are using where you install Docker CE might not have access to nested virtualization, in that case with Hyper-V. So maybe Docker tries, but fails to start the isolation virtualization process because it's nested. That could be an explanation as well.
I was mentioning 2022 because it's working in that case with
Hmm?
Hyper-V. I might be missing some element.
Depends, but yeah, that it usually is the pain point. And if you have played with it, you know that it's the area, that's why. Um, so yep, let's continue working on this, but just be careful to use the same instance size as what we have on Infra CI if you are on Azure, or CI Jenkins IO if you're playing around with Amazon. That also means if it works on one cloud, it might not work on another. We have to test both.
Okay.
Azure will be the priority given what we said earlier on this meeting. Cool, thanks. Continuing the POC here. Okay, thanks, Hervé. Any other question on that topic or things to add?
I have something to add, but we can discuss that later. But I saw in the official Windows container repository that it seems that possible to build AMD 64 image from ARM host. It could be a cost thing to look at later.
There are no ARM64 Windows support neither in Amazon or Azure, so
Okay.
sorry.
Yeah, and my personal experience having an ARM 64 Windows machine has been interesting. Interesting in the sense of curse form of interesting. So I'd avoid Windows on ARM 64 for the moment. It works. It's working now for me, but it's taken quite a bit of work to make it work.
Worth bring the topic on platform SIG now, which will be do we want Windows ARM64 supports one way or the other, even if it's experimental and early, like RISC-V or other exotic configuration, I would say.
Yeah, and if we do, there are some changes we need in already in remoting to allow us. There's a component that complains on ARM 64 Windows that doesn't complain on AMD 64 Windows. So we've got a number of topics in that area if we want to do ARM 64 Windows rich and full support.
But that's a nice area to experiment. It's just for the infra, it's not stable enough. And because that will mean finding a location where we can run a Windows server on ARM64. That one will be tricky. Okay, thanks. Anything else? Okay. The next issue is on hold. So that was an issue about ensuring that CI Jenkins IO has require authentication in order to access it, to stop being hammered from time to time by abusive script kiddies, let's say. Hervé improved the code on Puppet so we could configure and get the last mile, which is about authorization once you are fully authenticated, because we know authentication works. It's on hold right now because we did not have time and we need to plan first the user cleanup before anything else. Needs the user cleanup as prerequisite. I might spend a bit of time on integrating Hervé's pull request because everything was green and looked good last time I checked. And that could, in any case, even if we don't use the code, that could be useful in the future. So might need a bit of time, but on applying it on CI Jenkins IO, yep, by default, Hervé did an opt-in system. So we will keep the opt-in and by default it won't be applied, but the code will be available. Next issue is about GSOC project. Everything is on the Jenkins CI administrator. We discussed and everyone at least, no one object my argument that this should be on Jenkins CI repository because there are no infra related LLM stuff. Let's learn from the mistake from last year. It's still kept open and we might have to plan migrating previous year repository as hinted by Hervé because team confirmed that when it move, looks like GitHub do redirections, so we won't kill the links of the GSOC's documents or blog posts. So if that's the case, then that's a good, Hervé, what you said is a good idea. Would you be willing to help on that part, Hervé? Just to be sure to plan it, so only one admin of Jenkins Infra will have to move it once it has been planned and we are okay. I think between you, Hi, and team, we should have enough permission on both sides, if it's okay. Is that okay for you, or are you full on time? Cool.
Sorry.
Cool. Migration of the...
I have to drop off for another meeting.
Thanks. Bye, Mark. Yeah. Okay, I should have been faster. So this one is on hold. Let's see next week. Tomorrow we have Jira upgrade. Reminder tomorrow. We still are work in progress on the GDK patch upgrade. Weekly releases have been done, LTS will be done. Docker packaging has been done. The last item is Docker builder image. I've created a new issue for the next milestone to get rid of that image in favor of the all-in-one Packer image. Looks like we don't need anything because Zbinek did all the work on the web fronts to stop using typo check style in favor of typos, which is already on the all-in-one. So we should be able to deprecate that thing. Yep, I will see if we have time. This one is optional, no emergency, but yeah, if we can get rid of that, that would be less configuration for us, less specification, easier to maintain. TLS 1.2 should be fixed tomorrow after the migration of Jira, which is the last one in that category. And the rest is on hold. I think that's all on the issues. Do you have question on these issues, clarification, things to add on before we go to triage? Okay, since I talk too much, I've already done a proposal for triaging. We have 5 issues for the credential that expire, so this one, no negotiation here, we will treat them. I've opened a new issue about warning messages, a slight Jenkins configuration as code change. Jay, would you be okay to read this, see if it's clear? Because that should be, I believe, 2 line changes, even 1.
Yeah, okay. I can do that.
Tha- That's an
Um,
easy one, and there is already part of the issue that is already done, so you can see the change, and the message is quite clear. So is it okay for you to take this one? Should be a quick one.
yeah, of course. But not sure today because it's quite late.
Yep, yeah, of course. It's
Yeah.
not an emergency one. It's a warning that is there since 1 month, so no emergency, but that's an easy one.
Cool, I'll look into it.
Thanks, Hervé, for the new mirror. I think we will be able to add them. So that's why I did this here. That will add way more download mirror in the US or in Canada in that case, but that will be for our North American users. Uh, and the last one is something that need to be done as part of the PKG migration. We used to have latest symlinks for the wars. They have been removed, cleaned up, and part of the work I'm doing require us to update them again. That will be part of the packaging part on release CI. Almost all the work is done and it will be performed as part of the PKG migration. So I propose we add this to the milestone. Are there other issues that you think we should plan for the upcoming milestone? Nope. Okay. So I think we're good. Are there anything else you want to add, discuss before we stop recording? Nope. I'm 5 minutes late. Sorry, I will try to do better next time. Stopping screen share, so I'm stopping recording for people watching us. See you next week.